before I was at GrowthHit, before I had these processes, I was doing it wrong. And it's very liberating to admit that and to be willing to step through that door and see what's on the other side of it.
No, I love it. Like when you can go to somebody and say, when somebody comes to you and they explain the problem, oh, I get it. I used to do that too. Like, I understand. And like, I now know why that didn't work. And I now know why like 8 other times when you went to somebody else, it didn't work out. Here's the reason fundamentally that'll never work for you. Yeah. And this is what I do to avoid some of that.
Well, and let's have some compassion because I thought I was doing it correctly.
Of course. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, I think, is so many people are poorly trained by folks that don't know what they're doing. And there's this like cycle of abuse of people who are underpaid, poorly trained, and overworked that eventually realize they're worth more than that. And then they start their own thing where they repeat the same bad training they had, but follow the same business model of abusing their client base and underpaying their work staff. And it's just, we're years into this cycle of people that ultimately learned before Facebook was an OCPM platform, back when it was basically Google Display.
Too young for that, but
yeah, I believe me, I remember. Like, I remember when there wasn't a pixel, like it had $1 million budget. Yeah, I've been around a bit.
Marketing fundamentals aren't different either. Yeah, like even outside of the context of this, it's not like all of the CMOs in the industry were idiots before the Facebook pixel was invented. Yeah. And a lot of the practices we do now are still very consistent with that.
Yeah. And I would say actually most of the stuff we do now is way more like it was before it existed. I think the conversion pixel and like thinking of things like Google and like email, where it was very different. Like the strategies, when I talk to people today, one of the best managers I ever had was this woman named Marina Randolph. She's a G. Like she was a head up at Guthrie Rinker. And she would spend 100 million plus a year on television. And her attribution model was a stopwatch after the infomercial ended. And she could run 9 figures with that.
Right.
And I learned Scrum Doc was built out of self-preservation and ecosystem ROAS of having to get 10 minutes of her time a week so that I could run this business. And like, I just think there's this, so many people have this traumatic experience because ultimately I think these agencies, the vast majority of ad agencies are built around the business model of, we're going to underpay and overwork enough employees to work on enough things. And yes, we're going to lose clients, but our sales team is better than that. So we're going to overcome attrition by growth. And as long as I have a bigger sales team than I do a staff that supplies the clients, I'm going to make more money. And what I love is like people like you in this space. We're not a Facebook ad agency that's going to try to make a report look good. We're entrepreneurs trying to grow your business. And it sounds like the people that you're bringing on board with your team are all of that mindset of like, today's budget's $1,000. Why isn't it $1,500? What can I fix in this business? How can we do more? And that's so essential to success. People have to have, you can't have somebody that looks at self-preservation and vanity as the person running your business. The person running your business should be running businesses as their business, if that makes sense.
100%, 100%. Caveat, we have a startup studio. Sure. And what's cool about that is we can do things that I would never pitch.
Love it.
Because it's not proven.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take somebody's hard-earned cash and test a new methodology on them. And I'm not really talking about I'm not throwing out the fundamentals of understanding how the machine learning works.
Right.
But for just like weird offer ideas or and we're really scrappy with that as well. We're investing the profits of our agency in some of these startup studio things. There's a few different selfish reasons for it. Like A, if one of them is a hit, amazing.
Of course.
B, it's great press and publicity. We can be completely transparent with that data. It belongs to us as a business. And as GrowthHit, our CEO, Jim, super transparent. He gets on the podcast if I were starting today, and he'll like literally tell everyone what our revenue was, what has been tough, like transparently, like in this economy, we're really, because of the quality of work we do, our margin, the margin situation is always a focus. And being able to just be honest about that with people, I think is really important, because it doesn't need to be a complete black box. I understand if other business owners want to be more private,
Sure.
but how freaking fun to be able to make bets in public and say, hey, like, we think this is going to work. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't, we all learn.
Yeah.
And our clients love that too, because they get to benefit from the mistakes and wins that happen in that sandbox.
Exactly. And I think my favorite thing about that, and it's something that I just randomly installed in myself, like a week into the job, was just like, I'm going to do one thing different on every project.
Yeah.
And as a result, it was just, I mean, for me, it was out of, I think, overcoming boredom, because
it gets stale.
It gets real stale. And
you learn the scaling game.
And yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try things that you shouldn't do. I'm going to break things. I'm going to do stuff. One of the things that I did, one of the earliest examples of that I can remember was I was running CBS for Sweeps Week for Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy.
Cool.
And it was supposed to be a reach and frequency campaign against video views.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to spend 25% of this money on engagement.
Yeah.
And as a result, I got 30% more video views on the engagement because of the earned reach that happened off of it. Now, I got in trouble for doing that. Sure. And I also wrote up a case study, sent it out to the whole company of, this is how to game the system.
This worked.
Yeah, this works. And I was also manual bidding on CPMs and accelerated delivery. So my reach and frequency was coming in at like 250, and I would run it at like $1.80 just to try to like game the crushed.
Yeah. Oh. Do you think that same tactic would?
I think it would. I think it would if your business objective isn't financial with that investment.
Yeah. And that is not the luxury I have with any client, which is why you got in trouble, but they were wrong.
Yeah. I mean, at CBS, they're not selling anything, so it was okay. The problem was
earlier.
Yeah.
That's a different game. It's a different game.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important as a founder, as a business owner, is to understand that when you're scrolling Twitter, when you're watching YouTube, you're getting a lot of advice that is shrunk down and broadcast as if it's a universal message.
Yeah.
And your business objectives, like you very carefully phrased what you said earlier, if the business objective is not financial. And some people may hear that and think, isn't it always financial?
No. Like, and for the those that want to know that, like, I had a job where I was paid $75,000 a year to spend $1 million a day, where revenue was not an objective. The objective was to spend $1 million a day because we had a 20% commission. So I'd make $1 million a month, $1 million a week in commissions for my boss. That was the job. That type of agency is a bank. I was an investment banker. And all we would do is basically say, this is the report, spike the CPM projections by 10%, and then just buy it on cheaper inventory and over deliver every time. Yeah. And it was like the easiest thing to do. And that's why I had to start
criminal.
Oh, no, it was. And I didn't last there. I kind of got fired, more or less, almost got fired from that job. I told the story on this podcast, Oopsie, with Jess and Zoe. But I told the story about that, where I under-delivered by 200,000 for the launch of a couple shows. But I did it like 4 or 5 days in a row, which basically meant I cost about 5 times my annual salary in 5 days and lost commissions.
To the agency, though, not the business.
No, saved the client a lot of money.
Right.
Cost the agency a shit ton of money above and beyond my paycheck. So I was not fit for that environment. For me, silly things like respecting people's bank account and trying to run a decent business made me a liability in the mainstream agency world. So we've talked about a lot of stuff here. I'm curious, like, what was your experience in the MBA when you were doing it? Like, how did it feel for you? I think what it was like not necessarily day in, day out, but like what the experience was, what the vibe was, what was most exciting for you.
I'll back up a little bit because I'm just overexcited. But
I love
before I signed up, I watched like all of your stuff.
Okay, great.
And I had already tried to apply everything I could. I was applying. And a lot of it was more mindset about how the platform works. So you put so much great content out. I think if anyone's interested, go ham. It's low risk for you.
Yeah, do all the free stuff.
I'll be honest, there are some very specific details that are not out there. Some of your videos, Charlie, the way that you talk about concepts, if I hadn't gone through the program, I might interpret a little bit differently. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just when you say, I think recently I saw something in my feed where you said like some myths or things like that and downplaying the importance of how much quantity of creative you test. Massively increase the amount of elements I test, but the way that we do it is low risk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I can't tell people to do 100 dynamic creative tests, but I also can't give them the entire breakdown of how Golden Bear works in the same 3-minute
and
video.
That's what got me. That's what got me. I felt like I had been able to apply a lot of stuff, but I was like, there's this missing piece and I know that I don't really understand it. So going into the program, I feel like I had a pretty good foundation that helped me start applying things quickly. And then those little gaps, as those popped in, my mind just exploded. And I was
like all the little connective tissue, all the synapses. Yes, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think this will bother you to say, but the processes work, but if your business sucks.
That doesn't bother me to say at all. Yeah.
The vibe of the program, I think for me, I really had to be prepared to go all in to get the most out of it. There's a lot of content and it's not something that you can really binge in a single week. It was so fun. It was so fun. I felt like I went through stuff pretty quickly, but the thing is, you need to be implementing along the way and exercising. And that's what I think differentiates your program from pretty much everything else out there is this intentionality around, can people really, to use maybe a slowly more popular word, embody the information? It's one thing to be like, check, check, check. Cool, I watched this training. I know a few things. But when you're really putting yourself in the Scrum documents, when you're really putting yourself in the ad account, when you're getting down to the details of, okay, so the Golden Bear process, my clients freaking love it. I love it.
Good.
It is so fun. We'll talk about it like March Madness, depending on the person. Like that gets them really excited.
Oh, I always lose every one of those bets. I do the same thing. I'm wrong 98% of the time, which I love because I know I'm not good at creative, and Golden Bear just reinforces how terrible my intuition is on that. Right. But it means I don't have to be good.
You don't know. You really don't have to know what's going to work. You need to leave your ego at the door and have a willingness to try different things. And the beauty of it is the Golden Bear method and the DCT to Proving Ground method de-risks the process.
Yeah.
It is really challenging to hear and see, because I get to see what other ad agencies do sometimes because we take over ad accounts or we're competing for them. And every time I see 5 campaigns, several ad sets each, and each of them one ad, and they have like a testing campaign and then like a business as usual campaign, it breaks my heart because the performance could be better, but it is challenging for people to let go again of that old system. But I feel so empowered with the information and how deep the program goes into the fundamentals. Like we're talking about the basics of statistical inference. And I have a lot of opinions about statistical inference and how it applies to how we interpret Facebook results. Spoiler alert, I don't think we can say things are statistically significant. None of the assumptions for statistical inference apply to any like social media. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? There is a process to it. There is a method to it. And if you understand that, you can set it up to succeed.
It's not that like you all of a sudden came across the best ad because some creative director was struck by lightning. It's just a math equation.
Yeah.
I don't have a single ad account where that ad isn't created just by attrition of doing the work.
Right.
And it's so many creative directors I know won't give up that control. And I'm just
like, it's not to say we do everything blind, right? I don't want people to misunderstand that either.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's not that we're not looking at it, we're not analyzing it and not drawing hypotheses, but the reality is if every single shot I make is going to completely shake the Etch-a-Sketch, I'm not going to get where I need to go in any meaningful amount of time.
Yeah, and the other point that I have with folks is, say you are, like, what is the outcome that we're trying to come here? Say you are that good.
Yeah.
Say you are the person that can hit it every single time.
Yeah.
That means in order for you to work well, you have to hit it every single time for every single person, every single day.
That's a great point.
And you'll never be able to take a break or you fail.
That's a great point too, because it's not about the one golden, and this is why the Proving Ground methodology is so important and why I use your analogy of it being a sales team all the time, because There's, as you say, there's two ways that we can win. One, we can get better at appealing to the people who already are into us. Right? They could be cold audiences, but that's the type of person that Facebook knows is into what we do and how we talk about it, even like our personality as a brand, a product, or whatever. And the second is, how do we appeal to brand new people? How do we get more scale? And both of those are important. Something I've been struggling with on some places is, okay, like it seems like we're starting to really saturate this one particular area. But the great thing about the proving grounds is we don't have to give it away to still experiment to find that scale. And I think in previous years, it felt like one or the other, or you were just disrupting what worked instead of just having it. It's like a titration system is really how I think about the entire creative testing methodology.
I love that.
You're just slowly distilling so you have the best of the best, the most like high potency content, and you're mixing it together so that over time you've got this beautiful lineup, this beautiful portfolio. I don't think the investment analogy is totally wrong, but I think about it differently now. I think about it as, how can I invest in different types of content? How can I invest in,
No, I love it. I love it because I think you're really hitting on the point here of it being like this. More than anything, it's going from you saying, I need the best creative person to come up with the best creative stuff so that hopefully I can get lucky on one of these ads and scale the account to.
Right.
I now have a process that means ultimately, I'm allowed to use data and let the machine tell me what works. And I can make informed decisions.
Correct.
I can make weighted bets. But ultimately, I don't have to sacrifice what works to make things new happen. And like, I just watched a video today where it's like you're doing Facebook ads completely wrong. And like I cite like so many people in it and it's doing well. What happens if I cite like 20 YouTubers in one video and like I tag them all? And we'll see how it goes. But like Dara Denny and Nick Terrio and some like really great people. And then
I was about to say, we know you love Dara. Like it's no shade at these people at all.
Absolutely. And
it's a survey though.
And so there's a line in there where I was watching like The Matrix or whatever, and there's this one spot. I don't know if you've seen The Matrix.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so he's meeting the Oracle, and like she's, hey, look out, and he's and he turns around and knocks something over, and then she's, now it's gonna really bake your noodle. Is, would you have knocked it over if I hadn't told you? And really the analogy there is, you say you have to test new creatives because new ads do better. So more new ads means more better. So as long as you're testing more ads, you're gonna continue to grow. But what you're also noticing is, oh man, ads are dying faster and faster. I was on a conversation.
Which is so wrong.
I was on a conversation with
I have so many counterexamples.
Would your existing ads die if you didn't test so many new ones? And the answer to that is no. If you had a qualitative way of using machine learning and artificial intelligence and the scientific method in a way where you're able to take leveraged bets so that you don't have to sacrifice what works to create new growth, you can just build on top of it.
Right.
Then you wouldn't see nearly the amount of attrition. And what's more important about that is the people that would come to your store would look more similar. So all of your email flows and your search campaigns and your CRO and your upsells would all continue to improve instead of just chasing your tail around where, man, in the summer, things are struggling. And in Q4, things are great because that's what's happening that's just the price of $1.
Sure.
And has nothing to do with the work that you're doing.
Yeah.